Out of the 130 plus cars I reviewed last year, the Mazda CX-5 made it into my top 5, coming in at number 5 of all the cars I reviewed last year. It was very, very impressive, despite it being around in the second generation since 2016, the CX-5. Now, the CX-5 was introduced in 2012 with its first generation. And since 24, the CX-5 for Mazda has been the best-selling Mazda globally, as well as here in the United States. It's Mazda's biggest market, and has achieved record sales in 2019 with 444,000 units sold worldwide. I don't know if they've eclipsed that since then. I don't know how relevant this information is, but it does let you know the CX-5 sells a lot for Mazda. And as of March of 2022, cumulative sales of CX-5 reached around 3.5 million global units. If we look at how much they sold of the CX-5 in 2024 in the United States alone, it was 134,000. You know, it comes far short of, if you look at the CRV sold over 400,000 units last year. And if you look at the RAV4, that sold about 475,000 units. But for Mazda, this is huge volume. This is by far the biggest volume seller. And I guess in 2021, they had their best-selling year for the CX-5 stateside, despite being that weird COVID time, chip shortages and whatnot. They sold a lot of CX-5s. But Mazda could be kissing goodbye to the CX-5. What the heck are they thinking? If you're a fan of Mazda, make sure to hit that like button and make sure you subscribe, because this story is far from done. We will be getting a redesign on the CX-5, or whatever they decide to name this model going forward this year. Maybe summer we'll get the redesign. I mean, it's overdue. In 2016, the second gen came out, so we're nine years in to the product cycle. About it needs to have a redesign as soon as possible. Now, it will have a hybrid. That's going to be really, really good news for Mazda to compete against Toyota, who's going full hybrid with the 6th generation RAV4 coming redesigned this year as well. And the CRV continues to sell more and more hybrids too. And the Koreans have hybrids. And yeah, I'm driving the new Murano this week, and I got to review it today. So if you want to see a non-hybrid be reviewed in the form of the new Nissan Murano, stay tuned on the channel. I'll maybe even have it up today. Mazda is set to drop its most successful nameplate. We're over at Cars Guide in Australia, the CX-5, but that won't stop it taking the fight to the RAV4, Sportage, Outlander, and the highly competitive midsize SUV segment. So this being an Australian site, the Sportage sells huge volume here in the United States. If we look at the Sportage outsold the CX-5 stateside last year. So yes, it is definitely a competitor. And the Sportage has a good hybrid, actually the most affordable hybrid in the midsize, or you could call it compact crossover segment. The Sportage is getting a refresh as well this year, so that will make it even more competitive. But going back to Cars Guide here, Outlander's just got a new plug-in hybrid. There's some new Outlander news coming around right now that it's going to be getting some off-roady type variants, a mild hybrid as well coming in the next year or so, but nothing major, I would say. Speaking to Cars Guide, Mazda Australia Managing Director Vinesh Bindi acknowledged the long-held expectation that the CX-5 name would be dropped in favor of Mazda's new double-digit name convention. Mazda makes the CX-50 in the United States. They make it in Huntsville, Alabama, at the same plant with Toyota's Corolla Cross. So they can't name it the CX-50. And the CX-50 might be a little bit longer. Hold on. Yeah, the CX-50 is a little bit longer just from looking at them side by side here. CX-5 in the foreground, and you can see the CX-50 has a couple inches on the front and the rear. The CX-50 has, I think, a little bit more cargo capacity, but has a shorter roof line, so there's less headroom in the model. Okay, so if we look here, it's about 17 millimeters longer, and I can move this to inches. Here we go. It's about 6.5 inches longer. The CX-50 is over the CX-5. CX-50 is about 3 inches wider, and I'm not going to count the mirror measurements. These seem to be off or not making sense to me. Anyways, the height of the vehicle. The Mazda CX-5 is 2.5 inches higher than the CX-50. The wheelbase is shorter on the CX-5 by 4.5 inches. Ground clearance is about an inch higher on the CX-50, and that's why Mazda kind of markets the CX-50 as like this off-roady thing. They have with the Meridian edition, it's really focused for the off-roading crowd. Cargo volume, 31 cubic feet of cargo space. And I knew this number is not right because the cargo space on the CX-5 is actually 29.1 cubic feet here. Okay, so the CX-50 has 2 more cubic feet, so nothing major. And I don't think this weight is correct either. They're about the same weight, I would say. Curb weight of the CX-5 I'm looking at right now is 3,783 pounds. So see, they're very much in the same segment, but longer vehicle for the CX-50. It's shorter from ground to roof, but it's longer from front to back. And the wheelbase is 4.5 inches longer. Okay. They can't name it the CX-50 unless, here's an asterisk, the only way they would name it the CX-50 is if they decided to not bring it to America and name it the CX-50 for all the markets that don't get the American-made CX-50. Is that a possibility? No. And the reason is they can't make enough, more than likely, they can't make enough CX-50s out of that Huntsville, Alabama plant to take up the volume of the CX-5. Okay, so they have to both be available in the Mazda lineup. All right, so they're saying that the most likely candidate for the new name is a CX-40. I was driving next to a CX-3 today. CX-3, interestingly, is also on this old naming with the single digits. Remember the CX-7, the CX-9, the CX-9 replaced by the CX-90, for example. You can say, even though there's a big gap between the CX-7 and the CX-70, they're both 2-row crossovers. So the CX-3 and the CX-5 are the only ones I think are available in the global market right now, and with the single digits for the crossovers. All right, the sedan is different, right, with the Mazda 3 and the Mazda 6e or the Easy 6 for other markets, but we're not ever going to get that car, unfortunately, unless they build it in Alabama, which is not going to happen either. So yeah, I think Cars Guide is spot on here, thinking that the CX-5 is going to drop its naming for the CX-40. It's going to be the exact same car. Well, not really, because it's getting redesigned. It's going to be the exact same footprint, same dimensions. It's going to be a little bit smaller than the CX-50, but have more headroom. So if we go back to Mazda Australia's Bendy, he says that I say that the CX-5 because if you look at our naming convention, we moved to double digits in the more recent ones. And I used to get asked the question all the time, what's it going to be called? So it was my commentary to say, we'll decide what it's going to be called, whether it's a CX-5 or something else. But for now, I think let's just call it CX-5, but don't take that as I'm announcing that as the name. What I really should be saying is that the CX-5 segment competitor, that size car, there will be a new generation. Okay, all right, he's playing kind of like some word games with us. Officially, Bendy would only say Mazda will reveal the plan soon for the CX-5 replacement, but he did let a few other details slip. Speaking about the broader plans for electrification across the Mazda range, Bendy confirmed the new CX-5/CX-40 will have a hybrid, not a plug-in hybrid at all, but would also maintain petrol engines for broader market appeal. All of our cars will have electrification of some sort by 2030. We're in this transition phase. Not everyone expects a full battery EV or even a hybrid. Some will still want internal combustion engines, and I agree with him. You got to remember, Mazda is slightly manipulated, maybe. Remember, Toyota owns 5% of Mazda. So I think Mazda's philosophy is very tied in with Toyota's philosophy, as well as Subaru's. Remember at the Multi-Pathway workshop, It was between Mazda, Toyota, and Subaru, showing electrified engines, meaning hybrids, coming, all right, in the near future. So the CX-5, I would put money on it, all right, that it's going to be replaced by the CX-40 naming. Time will tell if this renaming of the CX-5 to the CX-40, and we'll see if it's official. But I'm taking this not with a very small grain of salt. I'm taking this renaming quite seriously, and it could be a marketing blunder for them. It might work out in their favor as well. I think, okay, honestly, it'll be less confusing than what we currently have. A CX-5 and a CX-50, I've always thought that was just a boneheaded idea, but I don't think that was the plan. I think the plan was, okay, we'll redesign the CX-5 around the same time as the CX-50 introduction, and name the new CX-5 the CX-40. But it's probably been delayed. A lot of new cars from Japan have been delayed for lots of different reasons. Maybe they're trying to figure out this hybrid thing. Mazda has the CX-90. Well, I should say the large platform hybrids with the inline six. They have the inline six turbo diesel hybrids. I believe they're electrified. I'm pretty sure they are. And then you also have the plug-in hybrids. So Mazda knows hybrids, but this is going to be different. We actually don't know how this hybrid is going to compete or even compare technology-wise to Toyotas. It could be very similar to Toyotas. And in fact, I mean, the rumors have said that this new hybrid in the CX-40, CX-5, whatever they decide to name it, is solely developed by Mazda. At the Multi-Pathway Workshop, it seems like the Toyota, Subaru, Mazda are working on electrification and throwing ideas back and forth between each other. All right, so it's not without Toyota's influence. We just don't know how similar this hybrid will be to something like the 5th gen RAV4 hybrid. I should say the 5th gen hybrid in the 6th generation RAV4 coming later this year. So let me know what you guys think about this decision. It's not official, but how Mr. Bindi from Australia's Mazda was being so dancing it around like the naming, to me, it means that there's probably a big change for the CX-5, and we could be seeing its name as we know it being retired. But the car is, regardless of what the car is called, it's going to be the next generation of the CX-5. Okay, it's just going to be called something different, probably the CX-40. Makes sense to me with their current naming setup, but should they have just stuck with the traditional single digits? It would have made things a lot simpler, in my opinion, if they just stuck with CX-9, CX-7, CX-5. But the problem is they had the CX-50 and the CX-5 at the same time. I can't wait for the redesign of the CX-5 replacement, the CX-40. And once I hear anything new on the matter, I'll update you guys on the channel. I mean, I'll catch you guys in the comments. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. And pour one out, maybe a little prematurely for the CX-5. Peace.